Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, August 13th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. And just one day to go before San Diego County could come off the state watch list, the case rate stayed below 100 per 100,000 for a second day. And as for new cases, there were 266 reported, along with 7 deaths. As KPBS reporter John Carroll explains, even if the county comes off the watch list, that doesn't necessarily mean restrictions will be lifted.
Our message today is clear that we are seeing progress, particularly in the recent week and in the recent days in what we're doing.
If we have a third consecutive day tomorrow below the 100 per 100,000 people rate, we'll be taken off the state's monitoring list. But Supervisor Fletcher followed up that good news with a reminder that this is a marathon and that the good trend won't continue if we let our guard down.
We have to avoid the temptation or mindset that if tomorrow's numbers are under 100, somehow we feel like we've made it, we're done, we can go back to normal.
And Fletcher says if we get off the monitoring list, nothing changes right away when it comes to restrictions on indoor activities like dining.
Those restrictions were put in place by the state. They are not automatically rescinded or lifted if we come off the monitoring list.
But if we do come off the list on Friday, a new clock begins. If we stay below the case rate trigger for 14 consecutive days, K through 12 schools, following state guidelines, will be able to reopen. Elementary schools can apply for a waiver to open even sooner. Fletcher says 48 schools in the county have applied. None have been approved yet. If any of those waivers are approved by the county, they'll go to the state for approval. There has been some confusion over discrepancies in the case count numbers, with the county's count differing from the state's. Wooten says that issue is being worked out.
We actually had conversations with them today, and we have a meeting scheduled tomorrow to determine next steps.
With numbers moving in the right direction, you might wonder how close we are to the point where restrictions on indoor activities like dining might be lifted. Supervisor Fletcher says that will be determined by the state. But in the midst of a pandemic, you take good news where you can get it. And for now, at least, San Diego County is inching along in the right direction. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Evictions are set to begin once again in California starting on September 1st. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us why housing courts are now set to reopen.
Since April 6th, California's Judicial Council, which manages California's court system, has put a pause on all pending and new evictions. It did so as thousands of tenants lost their jobs and faced weeks-long waits for unemployment benefits. The council said it was doing so until California's legislators could act and find a solution for the over 40% of California tenants that are currently unable to pay their full rent and are at risk of eviction. But this afternoon, the council voted 19-1 to end the eviction moratorium at midnight on September 1st. That means that the wave of evictions sweeping the nation could soon arrive in California. In a statement, Chief Justice Tani Cantil-Sakaue threw the responsibility of resolving the looming crisis to the state legislature, saying the duty of the judicial branch is to resolve disputes under the law and not to legislate, and that she would urge our sister branches to act expeditiously to resolve this looming crisis. The city of San Diego has an eviction moratorium of its own through the end of September, but the county's moratorium will expire at the end of the statewide pause. The legislature now has until it recesses at the end of the month to find a solution for California's tenants. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
Some encouraging news for the economy. First-time jobless claims fell below 1 million for the first time since March. The Labor Department says 963,000 Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. Experts say it means people keep returning to work. 15.5 million people, however, have filed for unemployment benefits at least 2 weeks in a row. Workers left unemployed by the pandemic are rallying for support. As KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman tells us, the hospitality and tourism industry took a huge hit.
The San Diego Empty event rally was held here outside the county administration building, trying to raise awareness for the millions of event staff that have been laid off nationwide due to the pandemic. The rally was put on by a group called the San Diego Community Event Coalition. The group is made up of businesses and nonprofits that put on large events in San Diego like Pride.
For the first time in over 45 years, we have not been able to celebrate Pride. As of now, we have taken an estimated $1.3 million net loss in revenue.
The coalition is working with county officials to establish cleaning and distancing protocols to once again start holding live events. But currently, group gatherings are prohibited by the county health order.
We stand in solidarity with our event industry community and ask that our elected officials acknowledge the economic impact the event industry has for all of San Diego.
Event organizers are asking people that enjoy food festivals and other community events to help them make their voices heard.
That bear fest, that you had that best bear in your entire life, or that musician that you just partied all onto the night and you all sat up all night talking about that amazing event. We need our people, which is our event guests and attendees, to start speaking on our behalf.
If not, organizers say the event industry and people in it will continue to suffer.
Event planners, lighting companies, lighting hands, stage companies, stage hands, cleaning companies.
We just want, like I said, to come back as safely as possible and have events that the public can enjoy safely and, bring back an entire industry that's been almost shuttered by the coronavirus.
The coalition is also asking for 20% of county COVID-19 relief grants to go toward the live event industry. Rally organizers say that they believe there's still a way to host some of these large events with some protocols. They're just asking that state and county officials give them a seat at the table so that they can prove it. Here in downtown, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The crowds returned to Ocean Beach again for the weekly drum circle hours after a compliance team set out to educate people about the county's public health order. Video from last week shows large crowds, no masks or social distancing in OB. And according to our media partners KGTV, the city's compliance team handed out about 300 masks. Earlier in the day, Veterans Plaza appeared to be less crowded, but as the sun went down, more people came out. No citations were issued and police cleared the area by 10:30. More than 5 million Americans have been infected with COVID-19 and more than 166,000 people have died since the pandemic began. Now, as Chris James reports, the director of the CDC has a strong warning as we head into fall.
This is the greatest public health crisis that hit this nation in a century.
Dr. Robert Redfield, director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, issuing a strong warning to Americans regarding COVID-19.
I'm asking you to do 4 simple things. Wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, and be smart about crowds. If we don't do that, as I said back last April, this could be the worst fall from a public health perspective we've ever had.
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration echoing the guidance, publishing a list of tips for families. Again, reminding Americans to wash their hands, wear a mask, and social distance. Additionally, the FDA is asking people to donate blood due to the ongoing shortages due to the pandemic. All this comes as local officials debate how and when to get kids back to school safely.
We haven't seen our kids since March, and there are a lot of mental health issues that they're struggling with. And learning is better in person, but only if it's safe.
And with some schools already in session, how to handle outbreaks continues to be a major concern for both educators and parents. More than 2,000 students, teachers, and staff have already been quarantined across 5 states after outbreaks of new cases occurred after those schools reopened. Chris James, KPBS News.
And we're following all of the latest developments for you at kpbs.org. Just click on the Tracking COVID-19 link on our homepage and you'll find a link to all of our recent stories. You can also find how many cases are in your zip code. Tonight, neighbors in La Mesa are invited to talk about the protests that were followed by violence and looting in May. The La Mesa City Council is hosting a virtual town hall starting at 6 p.m. On Tuesday, the council agreed to hire a consulting firm to look into how the peaceful event turned into unrest and how law enforcement agencies handled it. On May 30th, rioters set fires to vehicles and buildings and looted stores in the La Mesa Springs shopping center. Chula Vista police are asking for help to solve the murder of a teenager in January. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says the teen was stabbed when he tried to break up a fight at a party.
15-year-old Devin Griffiths was at a birthday party in the 900 block of Maria Way on January 31st when a fight broke out.
Now, Devin was not involved in this fight. He was just an innocent bystander. But what he did see, he saw his friend being attacked by several people. Devin, being the person that he was, tried to intervene and pull his friend from the fight, acting as a good Samaritan, doing the right thing. At this point, for no reason at all, Devin was attacked.
The teen was stabbed repeatedly and died of his injuries on February 16th.
He was a good kid. He was mainly goofy, a very goofy kid. He was very active, sports and skateboarding and scootering, and he helped out a lot of people. And he loved a lot of people, and a lot of people loved him.
The police department is teaming with the Crime Stoppers to try and solve the murder.
We like to think that there is some type of footage out there showing this attack on Devin. We also know how juveniles and young adults talk. They all talk freely amongst each other. There's got to be somebody out there that has information on the person that stabbed, attacked, and killed Devin.
Chula Vista police are asking anyone with information, video of the incident, or working exterior cameras around the 900 block of Maria Way to contact them at 619-691-5074 or to call the Crime Stoppers Anonymous tip line at 888-580-8477.
My main concern is I don't want this to happen to somebody else's kid. People are killing people for no reason at all. It's ridiculous.
Crime Stoppers is offering a $1,000 reward in addition to the victim's family reward of $5,000 to anyone with information that leads to an arrest in this case. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
The bodies of the U.S. service members killed in that training accident off San Clemente Island have arrived at Dover Air Force Base. The San Diego Police Department called it an honor to escort the 7 Marines and 1 sailor from Camp Pendleton to their flight back east. The group died during an AAV training mishap back on July 30th. A group of San Diego firefighters are in action right now, helping to fight a wildfire in the Angeles National Forest north of here. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has details.
The lake fire has already burned some 16.5 square miles, and it only ignited Wednesday afternoon. Los Angeles County firefighters say the blaze is burning in rugged backcountry and in some places that haven't burned since the late 60s. Fire officials predict the wildfire will be a major blaze for several days because of where it is. Also, there's a heat wave settling over the region. National Weather Service meteorologist Brent Maxwell says the heat is already building, even in San Diego County.
And that'll bring, starting Friday, a slight chance of thunderstorms to the mountains. Right now it looks isolated, but sometimes that can be a problem for fires because isolated thunderstorms sometimes can produce lightning, but with little or no rainfall.
Lightning in a backcountry full of dry fuel can start a wildfire. The heat wave is expected to stay in the area through the weekend. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Hope you're having an excellent Thursday, and thanks for staying with us here at AccuWeather. I'm Marvin Gomez. Let's give you your weather headlines. Dangerous long-duration heat will be with us starting tomorrow all the way into the middle of next week. We have a little bit of moisture from Elida that's impacting parts of California, but for our area, we will eventually have those low clouds coming back into the weekend. You can see here in our satellite and radar image from earlier today, some of that moisture from what was Elida before pressing its way into southern and central California. Some of the higher terrain did see a little bit of wet weather. Eventually heading into tonight, we're going to be dealing with a few clouds out there. Some of those clouds could perhaps be over the higher terrain. Temperatures, they're not as cool across Borrego Springs, 87 for tonight. Meanwhile, along the coast, Oceanside, 61 degrees for tonight. Heading into Friday, we do have this area of high pressure system, which will be in control during the next couple of days, providing us those very dry conditions and those very hot temperatures. As a matter of fact, from Friday afternoon all the way through Monday morning, you can see west of San Diego into the deserts. That's where we do have an excessive heat warning, which includes places like Borrego Springs, Ramona, and Escondido as well. Along the coast, immediately along the coast, that's where we're going to have some of those less hot temperatures. So you can see here Ramona, 101 degrees, San Diego, 81 for your Friday afternoon. Lots of sunshine out there and into the weekend. Again, this area of high pressure still in control, and we're going to be dealing with quiet weather around in the morning hours. We are going to have some of those low clouds coming back. Along the coast, again, 80s, mid-80s for everybody throughout the weekend and into early next week. Inland areas, a little bit warmer for you. Upper 90s for Saturday and also into your Sunday. Some of the higher terrain, mid-80s as well. Make sure you are staying hydrated, and especially across the deserts, make sure you look inside of your vehicle before you lock the doors. Keep an eye on the kids, the pets, and the elderly as well. That's all on my end. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Marvin Gomez.
And with that heat wave coming, a statewide flex alert has been issued for tomorrow. The power grid operator is predicting a spike in demand, so they're calling for everyone to conserve electricity between 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. And that means turn off unnecessary lights, use major appliances before 3 p.m., and set thermostats to 78 degrees or higher. Now, San Diego is in the process of updating its 2015 Climate Action Plan. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says activists want a new goal to reduce the city's net carbon footprint to zero.
Really, we're here to listen and learn from folks and really gather input on what we can do better.
San Diego Sustainability Director Cody Hooven welcomed more than 100 attendees to a virtual forum on Thursday. It was the kickoff of a campaign to get input on what should be in the city's Climate Action Plan 2.0. The current plan requires the city to cut its greenhouse gas emissions in half by 2035 through a host of strategies, including reducing car travel, increasing renewable energy, and planting more trees. But it shouldn't stop there, according to Matthew Vasilakis of the nonprofit Climate Action Campaign. He says climate science has made it clear the city needs to aim for carbon neutrality by 2050 at the latest.
The climate crisis is bearing down on us today. And so this opportunity to kind of look at the Climate Action Plan and understand how we need to elevate it, to set higher benchmarks and to actually create real roadmaps to get things done is just so important.
The city has a public survey open to get more input from residents, and it plans on hosting more outreach events, particularly in disadvantaged and low-income neighborhoods. It's aiming to send the updated climate plan to the city council for a vote in the first half of 2021. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Getting an early warning about an earthquake can make a big difference in emergency preparedness, so that's why Google is turning millions of Android phones into mini seismometers. The company's new tracking system uses the vibration sensors in your phone to detect possible quakes. Your location will be sent to Google, where data from other phones will be processed. If needed, an alert will be sent out to everyone in the area. A number of military families have been left in limbo as they wait to move to new bases. The Navy imposed a stop movement this spring because of the pandemic. Now it's trying to restart travel. But as KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh reports, not everybody is being allowed to move yet.
This is
our home for the moment.
Adaptability is part of Navy life. For Kylie McFerrin and her family, that's meant living in an RV at a campground in the Laguna Mountains. It's about an hour away from the ocean, where her husband continues to work at Naval Base Coronado in San Diego County.
It has been difficult. There have been a lot of times where you have to tell yourself, this is only temporary. This is not forever. Tomorrow's a new day.
The McFerrins sold their home when her husband received orders transferring him to Maryland. They were forced to move out in July, but by then, the Navy had put his move on hold. With 2 young kids and no place to live, their best option was to buy an RV and search for campgrounds.
Some places are just booked because most people make these plans months and years in advance. And we are trying to do it last minute.
Her family is one of thousands caught up in the military's stop movement order, which went into effect in March. In July, the Pentagon began loosening restrictions. About 40% of the 230 U.S. military installations worldwide have reopened, because they met requirements like having fewer COVID-19 cases for at least 14 days. Assistant Commander of Navy Personnel Captain Derek Trank says bases also needed to be operating closer to normal.
There can't be a local travel restriction. They have to have essential services like childcare.
But San Diego naval bases are still on the red list, though the Navy is making exceptions.
But we have a waiver process. We were able to get sailors moved because they had a hardship or because they were essential to the mission of the new command.
Waivers have helped dramatically clear the Navy's backlog. The Navy originally expected it would take until sometime next year to move the nearly 24,000 waiting families. Now it expects to have the rest of those families at their new bases by November. The number of cases of coronavirus in the military has plateaued in the last week or so, though coronavirus cases had been surging through July, even as the Navy was pushing to get more sailors moving. Trank says the Navy is convinced it's reopening safely.
Because we are taking those steps to keep our people safe, I believe it is allowing us to make these moves, whereas before, everybody stopped moving really was the right answer because we knew so little.
Still, determining why one base is open to travel and another base is closed can be confusing for military families. Early in the pandemic, the Pentagon stopped listing COVID cases by base. In San Diego County, along with the Navy, the Marines' West Coast boot camp is still red flagged. But the Marines are free to transfer in and out of Camp Pendleton. Navy spouse Kelly Kopech is finally on her way to the East Coast from San Diego. She spoke from the road.
The unanswered questions. Nobody seemed to really know what information to give us or what advice to give us or that type of thing. And it was a lot of hurry up and wait.
Just like the McFerrins, the Kopechs also brought an RV when they needed a place to live after they sold their house in San Diego. Now they are finally traveling cross-country to Virginia with their 7-month-old with the help of a Navy waiver.
Something that would be incredibly helpful and beneficial to a future pandemic or other extreme situation would be for the Navy to allow for case management in this.
That would give families a point of contact, like when they have sailors deployed. The Kopechs will be required to self-isolate for 14 days at their new base. The RV will make that easier, while other families wait for their turn to hit the road. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention continues to call on parents to make sure their children are wearing masks. But as many have found out, it's easier said than done. Mandy Gaither has 5 ways to help.
Whether it's getting them on or keeping them on, kids and face coverings aren't an easy mix.
We need to have realistic expectations with kids.
Therapist Jody Baumstein with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Strong for Life says there are 5 things that can help. First, have a simple and age-appropriate conversation with your child.
Just being really honest with them and encouraging them to do it by talking about the benefits rather than persuading them or forcing them.
Second, make them part of the process. Allow them to choose their mask or decorate it.
That helps them get excited about it. It gives them a sense of ownership.
Third, let them practice wearing and putting on a face covering.
Give them fabric and let them put masks on stuffed animals. and try to just have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously.
Fourth, give gentle reminders, not just verbally. Let them see you wearing a mask.
That helps them realize that this is something you take seriously and you're really consistent with it.
Finally, know your child. Ask open-ended questions to understand why they might have trouble wearing a mask.
Just validate their concern, really let them know you understand, and then work with them on problem solving around it.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And the therapist says parents of young children can also make masks fun by allowing their child to also put on a cape and become a superhero.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. records its deadliest day under COVID in August. I talk with Dr. Anthony Fauci. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's a recap of today's top stories. Encouraging news from local health leaders. Just one day to go before the county could come state watch list. The case rate stayed below 100 per 100,000 for a second day. As for new cases, there were 266 reported, along with 7 deaths. Evictions are set to begin once again in California. This afternoon, California's Judicial Council voted to end the pause on evictions on September 1st. The city of San Diego has an eviction moratorium through September 30th, but the county's moratorium will expire. And the San Diego Empty Event Rally was held outside the county administration building to raise awareness for event staff who are out of work. The San Diego Community Event Coalition is working with county officials to establish protocols to start holding events again. They're asking for 20% of county COVID-19 relief grants to go toward the live event industry. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.